This video is meant to show you quizzes in the new instance of eLEARN called Daylight. Click Assessment and Quizzes. You should see the categories of Current Quizzes for quizzes that are open, Future Quizzes for those who have yet to take place, and Past Quizzes for quizzes that are closed. On the right you will see attempts versus what has been published, and you will also notice a lock for quizzes that are password protected, as well as dates available ranges for quizzes that are available for specific periods of time. You may use the checkmark box to bulk edit the quizzes, which allows you to change the name, the category, whether or not the quiz is active, and the number of attempts allowed per quiz. Once you're finished, you may save. You also have the option to reorder the quizzes. You can choose to delete certain quizzes, and you can choose to make copies of certain quizzes. If you would like to create a new quiz, click on New Quiz. Offer the quiz a title. You may choose to give it a category, and then you're going to want to add questions. The options for questions are going to be the same options that you had in the last version of eLEARN. Many of them are very common, and some of them we don't use as often as others. I'm going to do a sample true-false question, and you're going to see a format that looks much like what you're used to seeing. So you give the question a title, you can change the point value. Here is where you would add the actual text of the question. You may insert an image, and then at the bottom is where you would put the answers if it wasn't a true-false. And of course, you have to give a weight value for the correct answer. You can also choose to give feedback for the answers chosen. You can offer hints, and then you can offer general feedback. Much like the old version, you have the option to preview the quiz question prior to saving it, and when you're done, click the Save button. On the question page, you may delete your question, reorder your question, import questions from your library, or once you are finished adding questions, click Done Editing Questions. You have the same option under Edit Quiz that you had in the old eLEARN. Under the Restrictions tab, notice that your quiz is set to be inactive, and to make that quiz visible, you need to change it to active and consider adding start date, due date, and end date to your quizzes. You also have the Assessment tab where you can connect your quiz to a grade item. If the quiz can be self-graded, I would recommend that you allow it to be graded upon completion, and that you would allow it to automatically export to grades upon completion. You also have an Objectives tab where you can associate learning objectives, and Submission Views. If you want your students to see particular things when they finish the quiz, this is where that happens. You would click Default View, and you can change this information, and you can allow them to see the questions they've answered incorrectly. You can show correct responses or incorrect responses. You have many choices in here in how you set that up. Once you get that set up, you would click Save, and then when you are finished editing the quiz, you can click Save and Close. Likewise, if you want to edit a quiz that has already been created, you would simply choose the down arrow beside the quiz and choose the Edit option to see the same screen that you see when you create the quiz. Also, using that down arrow, you may choose to preview the quiz, or if your quiz is not automatically graded, this is also where you would grade the quiz. To manually grade a quiz, you would click on the attempt by the student. You would scroll through the answers and you would offer points, and you could also offer feedback per question. You could change the score here, and if you choose the graded check mark, that quiz is going to be automatically set to graded on this screen. If you don't check mark the box, you can choose to grade them all and then use the check mark box here to set all of them as published at one time. Once you have finished grading, click Save and Close. That is a quick version of quizzes in the new instance of eLearn called Daylight.